Alright, so what we're going to be doing today is a short little maintenance clip on a New Holland 7220 disc bind. One of the reasons for the clip today is when I purchased this, I actually purchased this back in the this past spring prior to the season. And the dealership that I bought it from, I'm not going to badmouth the dealership at all, but what I found is that the guy that went over it with me, he really didn't go over it at all as far as the locations of the grease fittings. He just said general stuff as far as like the drive line. He said there was a couple on this side of the machine, a couple on this side of the machine. I mean, that's good, I guess, but as I find, each time I go over this machine and grease, I find more fittings. So we'll start out with opening up the cutter bar access. And what you're going to find is where your drive line comes in down here onto your first hub. You're going to have three fittings right here. And the locations of those are, if you just turn this, even hooked to the tractor, you can still turn this freely. You've got two here, and then if you rotate just slightly around, you'll see the third, which is right here. And they're just your standard grease zerk. So there's three down here where the main drivetrain comes into your cutter bar. And then if you actually come across, and we'll just go right around the machine here. I actually already greased this yesterday. Not really thinking about a video. The video was kind of an afterthought. So it's no sense in me trying to pretend to grease this thing while you guys are watching. When you open up your side access point, you'll notice it has a sticker here for a grease fitting, which is obviously that fitting. However, I don't see any other stickers to identify this grease fitting, which is on that bottom main roller. And then you've also got two grease fittings down here, which are just pivot points for your cutter bar. Like I said, maybe it's a New Holland thing. I don't know. Maybe they ran out of stickers at the factory. I don't have any idea. But like I said, there's only one sticker here. So if you're watching or looking for stickers when you're doing this machine, I mean, you're going to miss grease fittings. So like I said, you got one here, two down here on the pivot point. I'm not really sure why New Holland went with this being a sealed bearing, but based upon what the owner's manual has told me and what I've physically observed onto the machine, this, which is your top rubber roll, is sealed. Maybe somebody will comment and tell me why that is, but for whatever reason, it appears to be sealed. There are no grease fittings. We'll move farther back the machine. Here you've got a pivot point where your cutter bar attaches into your frame. So you're going to have a grease fitting right here. And then if you move around inside, you'll have one right there. As far as on this side of the machine, that pretty much covers it. Like I said in y'all's comments, if you know of anything else, I mean, I'm not a mechanic by any stretch of the imagination, so comment if y'all know of any other grease fittings or any other important things that I need to be checking on this side of the machine. I actually went in the shop and I grabbed a tube of this grease, and like I said, this I think I actually got from Tractor Supply. It's a Traveler Premium Heavy Duty Grease, and that's what I'm talking about. It's the red grease, so I mean, it's a little bit more heavy duty. It's going to stick in those bearings a little bit better, and it's not just going to run right out when it gets up to speed and starts running for a while. So, all right, so we ended over here on this side. I pretty much covered everything here. So we're going to move now to the back of the machine. As far as your Winro controller, you have this little control back here. And what I did is just put some WD-40 on that, just some multi-purpose spray oil, just to make sure that that's lubricated and that you can move it up and down fairly freely. This machine, as I said, it's new. It's only mowed maybe about, I don't know, 300 acres, 300, 400 acres. So with the paint that's on here from the factory, everything's kind of tight. So, I mean, the lubrication's pretty important. You know what? Actually, I lied to you. There is a grease fitting. Right here is another grease fitting on this tensioner wheel, or what tensions your rollers. So there is a grease fitting here. It's not going to take very much because it's really, really tight. So, but there again, you can smear a little grease on this, or just put some oil, multi-purpose oil, just to keep that free. And just keep it free when you're in the field and you need to make any adjustments. We're going to move over here to the side now. The exact same location as what was on the other side. You're going to have a grease fitting right here. and then also again up inside where your machine attaches into your frame. So, come around to the real meat and the potatoes of the machine. This is where it basically all takes place. Actually, you know, before I open this up, there is one right here on this pivot. So this is where your machine, this has a hydraulic where I can do it from the cab to open this thing up to cut it. So there is one here where your drawbar hooks into your actual machine. So that's pretty important. You want to grease that one up fairly often. To open this up, it's got these two little rubber clamps. Then you just pull up on it a little bit. Open this up to access your main drive, your belt, and all that good stuff. So let's just dive right in. You got one here, another grease fitting right here, which is on your pulley tensioner for your belt sticker. So if you move down into here, which I don't really know exactly how well you're going to be able to see this, but you've got a grease fitting back here. Again, it's got a sticker on it. It's just another attachment contact point onto your frame, onto your rollers. Here it has another U-joint drive. This actually powers the roller, the top roller in this machine. Again, it's similar. If you greased U-joints, I mean, it's a pretty standard thing. Actually, on this connection, there are 3 fittings on there. You've got one on both of the U-joints, and then you've got one on the connector shaft or rod or whatever you want to call that that connects that together. So there's 3 right there. Then, which this is really going to be hard to see, there's actually another 2 grease fittings down on, that would be that other lower roller. Which, I mean, I can point to it. If you're in here and you're looking at it, you can see those. There's another 2 fittings down there. The one is for where the main bearing housing is for your bottom roller. The other is the drive shaft coming into that main housing. It's really hard to see on this, probably going to be hard to see on this video, but that's where they're at. Let me just look and make sure I got everything. Okay. The other 2 that we're going to actually have on this side of the machine right here is going to be down underneath. So you've got to almost get down here on the ground to see them. And that is on the cutter bar right here. There are 2 grease fittings. I don't know if you can see those pretty well or not from where you're at, but I think that pretty much covers it. So let's just count them. You got 1, 2. Then up here you've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think I got everything. So you got 9 fittings right here underneath these shields. So like I said, this is where your machine, this is really the meat and the potatoes of it. As I said before, I mean, no grease fittings any less important than any other, but I mean, these are your main drive components, so you want to get these, obviously. I don't know exactly what the manual says. I think it's about every 10 hours, if my memory serves me correctly. They want you to grease these. So that's got that part of the machine. The bulk of the machine is basically done. So what we'll do now is we'll move on to your drive line. Again, it is nice with these things. This is actually hitched to a Case tractor. And a lot of these drive shafts, I've noticed that you can't turn, or they're very difficult to turn hooked up. But this is actually hooked up right now to the tractor. And like I said, you can see I'm putting a little bit of effort into it, but not much as far as to turn this. Back to the grease fitting. So you got a grease fitting right here, as you can see, where your main drive line actually comes into the machine. Then you're going to rotate it around a little bit. And you've got one right there on your U-joint. Then we're going to move back down to here, and this little fancy piece of shielding that New Holland put on here. There's actually one in here, and what this is where the drive line can flex and come back and forth, or whatever it needs to do. And that would be right there. So you just have to rotate this plastic. There's actually 3 of these holes, which I really have no idea why there's 3. I mean, I can't imagine there's that much flex in that drive line, but I don't know. I guess maybe a mechanic somewhere in New Holland is smarter than I am. So, but anyway, you got one there on your drive line. Then you're going to actually come back down here, getting closer to the tractor, and they've got this little plastic shield piece on here to protect the drive. I don't know if it's to protect, but it's a shield for the drive line. There's 2 little steel pegs here, and all you got to do is just squeeze this together, and then that'll move right back like that, so you can get it out of your way. Here's another U-joint. and you've got a grease fitting. Same as everything else, you got it right here. So you're going to have another grease fitting on the drive line right up here. I thought that was a really good idea the way they did that. I've actually got a Krone baler, and we may do a review on that here in a little bit later, but it's fairly new also. And I found that on the Krone machine that it's not like this. This piece here, they've got the same thing, but it's actually fastened, bolted on, and you can't move it. So it's really a pain in the butt to get in there and try to grease that machine. I actually ended up cutting this piece on the Krone so I can access my U-joints better. But like I said, that's for another video and another time. So we're going to move on down the drive line, and we're getting closer and closer here to the tractor. You've got another U-joint right here, and it's in behind this rubberized piece. And I guess I spoke too soon, because this is actually, I don't know, it's almost like a rubberized, like a floor mat material or something like that. It is not movable. As you can see, it's bolted on here. So what you got to do with this, it's flexible enough that you can roll that back out of the way so you can see your U-joint. Same thing. Just get in there and turn it to where you can find your greaser. Moving down, farther down the machine here now, closer here to the tractor, you're going to have another grease fitting in here, which is another one of these cut out pieces of plastic on your drive line. You're just going to rotate that until you find that grease fitting, and that's going to hit that shaft right here. So there is going to be flex in this particular shaft, so that's going to be something you definitely want to hit regularly when you're greasing. The best way probably actually to show you this one is to actually unhook it from the machine. And here, it's going to fall down on me. Here what we're dealing with is, let me get this here down so I can hook this up here. This machine is really pretty well thought out as far as all the little nooks and crannies and the stuff that I found. It is pretty user friendly, I found. I'm coming actually out of an old 489 hay bind and moving into this. This is the first disc bind that I've ever owned, which is kind of another reason for the video. I know there's got to be other guys out there that this will be information that maybe you need, that maybe the dealership didn't go over with you. But anyway, back to the grease here. You're going to have two more of these U-joints in here. So you've got your hitch, your main shaft here where it hooks onto the tractor. It's going to come into a U-joint. So you're going to have a grease fitting there. Same as any other U-joint. It's just on one of these buckles here, there's going to be a grease fitting. Then that comes into that CV joint that I was telling you about. I wanted you to actually be able to see this, because I know some of these CV boots, I had a New Holland baler where the grease fitting for the CV joint was actually up on this end. But the way this one is placed, you can see the grease fitting here. That's your U-joint. Here's your grease fitting for the CV boot, which is just right there. So what I found is if you unhook the machine, it just makes it a lot easier. You can hook right into it. I know it's got gobs of grease on here because, you know, I believe in buying grease and not necessarily bearings. I think the grease is a little cheaper. So that's got those two. And then to get this back CV joint, what you have to do, back U-joint, what you have to do is just rotate this plastic shielding around, and you can actually hook it back into the machine and rotate that shielding around to get that back one. I think that pretty much covers everything on here that I wanted to hit as far as the grease fittings and kind of on the maintenance side. Maybe a little bit further down the road, I might post up a video whenever I get ready to drain that oil and do the cutter bar, because that's another really important maintenance thing. And from what I've been reading online, it probably about once a season, it looks like, depending on the acres, of course. But so it's probably going to be springtime before I do that. But as I find more things, if I do find more things, or if somebody's watching this video and sees something that I missed, put it in the comments, because I sure would like to know about it. Other than that, this has been a review of the New Holland 7220 disc bind. And hopefully this helps somebody. Thanks for watching.